My name is Alara Voss. I am 33 years old, and I am a pediatric surgeon. The moment my husband handed me divorce papers in the middle of my birthday dinner, the room exploded. His sister laughed first. Then his mother clapped once, slow and cruel, like she had been waiting for a show. Someone at the far end of the table actually whispered, "Finally." My breath caught in my throat as Damien slid the envelope across the white tablecloth, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "You wanted honesty. Here it is." Before I tell you what really happened, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's begin. I did not touch the envelope right away. That was the first thing that seemed to bother them. My mother-in-law, Celeste, leaned back in her chair with that sharp little smile she used whenever she thought she had won. "Open it, Alara," she said. "Unless you want to pretend a little longer." A few people chuckled. Quietly, uncomfortably. But they still laughed.
I looked at my husband, really looked at him. Damien's jaw was tight, but not in the way I expected. Not cold, not angry, tense. His fingers rested on the table beside the envelope, and for one strange second, I noticed something small and wrong. His hand was shaking. That was not like him. Not when he was angry. Not when he was certain. Still, his sister Marin kept going. "Honestly, this is the most exciting thing you've brought to a family dinner," she said, raising her glass. "Happy birthday, I guess." More laughter. Mocked. Laughed at. Watched. Cornered. Served like dessert at my own birthday dinner. And I sat there in a dark green dress I had bought because Damien once told me it made me look unforgettable. 6 years of marriage, and that I had spent all day in surgery, skipped lunch, rushed home, changed in 20 minutes, and still brought a gift for Damien because our birthdays were only 4 days apart. Mine first, his later. I had not come to that dinner ready for war. I had come hoping maybe, finally, our marriage could breathe again. The last year had been hard. Damien had grown distant. Not loud, not cruel, just absent in a way that slowly hollowed out the room. Late nights, vague answers, phone turned face down. He said work pressure, said money was tight, said I was imagining things. And after enough nights of being made to feel dramatic, suspicious, needy, you start swallowing your own questions. But this was something else. I picked up the envelope. It was already open. Another thing that felt off. If he wanted to humiliate me, why had he— The room had that awful charged feeling, the kind where people pretend they are innocent just because they are quiet. I could hear silverware against plates, ice shifting in glasses, someone breathing too hard. Then Marin said, "Careful, you might smudge your mascara." Celeste added, "At least try to keep some dignity." I almost laughed at that. Dignity. They had invited me to my own public execution and wanted grace from me. But I stayed calm. That made them crueler. People like that always want a reaction. Tears, begging, anger. Something they can point to later and call proof. She was unstable. She was emotional. She made everything worse. So I looked down at the papers. The first page was real enough. Petition. Dissolution of marriage. Legal language. Dates. But the second page made my stomach drop. It listed irreconcilable differences. Yes. It listed separation of property. Yes. Then I saw it. A paragraph that made no sense. A financial waiver attached to a trust review. Trust review? My heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. That strange cold calm spread through me. The one I get in operating rooms when something goes wrong, and panic would kill the patient faster than the problem. I read the line again. Any beneficiary claims pending formal disclosure will be suspended upon voluntary marital severance. I knew legal language well enough to know one thing. That sentence did not belong in ordinary divorce papers. I lifted my eyes. Damien was staring at me now. Not triumphant. Not relieved. Nervous. No, not nervous. Terrified. Celeste noticed my pause. "What is it?" she said lightly. "Can't understand the paperwork?"
Marin smirked. Big doctor, little brain. That got a louder laugh. Insult after insult. Cheap, mean, practiced. Like they had rehearsed this. I let them finish. Then I turned one more page. There was no signature from Damien. None. Only his printed name. My pulse kicked hard. In our state, Damien would never bring unsigned divorce papers to a dinner unless this was theater. Pure theater. Unless the point was not to file them. Unless the point was something else. I looked closer at the bottom margin and saw a law office name I did not recognize. Beneath it, a case reference number. Faint, crooked, like it had been copied in a hurry. Say something, Celeste said. Her voice had changed. Just a little. Maybe she had expected me to break by now. Instead, I folded the papers once and placed them back on the table. What happens if I don't sign? I asked softly. Marin laughed. Then you drag out the inevitable. But Damien said nothing. Not one word. That silence was louder than anything else. I turned to him. Did you file this? His mouth parted, then closed. Celeste answered for him. He doesn't owe you a performance, Alara. I kept my eyes on Damien. Did you file this? His throat moved. His hand shook again, and then, finally, he said, Not yet. The room shifted. Small thing, huge thing, not yet. So this was not finished, not final, not even filed. Why? I asked. He looked at me like he wanted to say something, but Celeste cut in sharply. Because he was trying to do this the civilized way before things became ugly. Ugly. I almost missed it. Almost. But then Damien whispered, very low, barely moving his lips. Don't sign anything. For a second, I thought I imagined it. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. Across the table, Marin was still smiling. Celeste reached for her wine. A cousin checked his phone. Normal little movements. Normal little cruelties. But my husband, the man publicly divorcing me on my birthday, had just warned me not to sign. And before I could ask another question, the front door opened. Heavy steps crossed the marble floor. Then a deep male voice cut through the dining room. Interesting, the stranger said. You're celebrating early. The room went silent, and Damien went completely pale. The room stayed frozen. Every head turned toward the doorway at the same time. Even the clinking of glasses stopped midair. It was that kind of silence, heavy, sharp, like something invisible had just stepped into the room and taken control. The man standing there was older, late 50s, maybe early 60s. Tall, composed, expensive suit, but not flashy. The kind of presence that didn't need attention, it commanded it. I had never seen him before, but Damien had. I saw it instantly. His face drained of color, his fingers curled tightly against the table. His breathing changed. Fear, real fear. Mr. Calder, Damien said under his breath. The name meant nothing to me, but it clearly meant everything to him. Before I could process it, Celeste stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is a private family dinner, she said, her tone sharp, controlled, but I caught it, that flicker of panic beneath it. The man, Mr. Calder, didn't even. His eyes were on me, then the papers, then Damien. And then he smiled. Not kindly, not politely, something colder. Private, he repeated calmly. You brought legal documents into a birthday dinner and thought it would stay private? No one responded. No one moved. I felt my heartbeat in my ears. Loud, heavy. But I stayed still, watching, observing. Just like in surgery. What do you want? Celeste snapped, stepping forward like she could block him. That was when the power shifted. Completely. Mr. Calder took one slow step into the room, then another. Each step echoed across the marble floor like a countdown. I want, he said quietly, to stop a very expensive mistake. Marin scoffed, trying to recover the mood. And who exactly are you supposed to be? He finally looked at her. Just one glance. And she went quiet. I'm the man, he said, voice steady, who manages the trust your family has been trying to access prematurely. My breath caught. Trust. That word. The same word I had just read on those papers. I slowly turned my head toward Damien. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was staring at the floor, guilty, cornered, exposed. Celeste's face tightened. "There is no premature access," she said quickly. "You're overstepping." Mr. Calder ignored her again. His eyes came back to me. "Dr. Alara Voss," he said, almost respectfully. "I assume you haven't been told anything?" Something inside me shifted, slowly, cold realization spreading through my chest. "No," I said quietly. "I haven't." Marin rolled her eyes. "This is ridiculous. Damien is divorcing her. End of story." But Mr. Calder let out a soft breath, almost amused. "No," he said. "That's not the story." The room tightened again. I could feel it. Everyone sensing something bigger now. Something they hadn't planned for. Something slipping out of control. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice calm but firm. Mr. Calder stepped close enough to see the documents clearly. He picked up the top page, glanced at it, then shook his head slightly. "These aren't filed," he said. "They're not even finalized." I already knew that, but hearing it out loud, it hit differently. Then he looked directly at Damien. "And you," he added, his tone sharpening just enough, "are running out of time." Damien swallowed hard. Marin snapped. "Time for what? Stop speaking in riddles." That's when it happened. The reveal. The moment everything broke open. Mr. Calder placed the papers back down slowly and said, "The trust your family has been waiting for. The one tied to Damien's grandfather's estate." Celeste's hand tightened around her glass. "Can only be released," he continued, "if Damien remains legally married for a full 7 years. Silence. Pure silence. No movement. No sound. Even the air felt frozen. My mind went blank for a second. 7 years. We had been married. 6 years and 8 months. My heart dropped. Hard. And then everything clicked. The distance, the tension, the sudden divorce, the timing, this dinner, this humiliation, this performance. They weren't ending the marriage. They were trying to control it. Or worse, rush something before time ran out. Marin was the first to react. "That's not," she started, but her voice cracked. Celeste cut in sharply. "That's confidential information." Mr. Calder didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "It was," he said, "until you tried to manipulate it." My fingers curled slightly in my lap. I could feel my pulse rising now. Not panic, not pain, something else. Clarity. "So let me understand," I said slowly, my voice steady, cutting through the tension. "You're saying this divorce," I glanced at the papers, "has something to do with money?" No one answered. That was answer enough. I looked at Damien again. This time, he looked up. Our eyes met. And in his, I didn't see cruelty. I didn't see hatred. I saw conflict, regret, and something dangerously close to desperation. Before I could speak again, Mr. Calder added one more line. The line that shattered whatever illusion was left. "If she signs those papers tonight," he said, his voice echoing in the silent room, "you lose everything." The room went dead, completely. Someone dropped a fork. No one picked it up. Celeste's face turned pale. Marin stopped breathing. And Damien closed his eyes. That was the moment. The exact moment I understood. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a setup. A trap. And I was the center of it. I slowly placed my hand on the papers. Not to sign. Not yet. But to feel them. To feel the weight of what they were trying to do. And then I asked the one question no one wanted me to ask. Who planned this? No one spoke. Not immediately. But then, from the far end of the table, a voice broke the silence. Soft. Careful. Guilty. It wasn't Damien. Every head turned. My breath caught. Because the person who wasn't supposed to speak, and the look on Celeste's face, told me everything was about to explode. The silence snapped. Every eye locked onto the far end of the table. It was Adrian, Damien's younger brother. Quiet, invisible most of the time. The one who never spoke unless spoken to. The one everyone ignored. And now, he had just broken everything. It wasn't Damien.
Adrian repeated, his voice shaking slightly, but he didn't look away this time. Celeste turned so fast her chair nearly tipped. Adrian, stop, she said sharply, but it was too late. The truth had already entered the room, and it wasn't leaving quietly. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at him. Then who? I asked. My tone was calm, controlled, but inside my heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Adrian hesitated. His fingers tightened around his glass. He looked at Damien, then at Celeste, then finally back at me. And in that moment, I saw it. Fear, guilt, and something else, relief. Like he had been holding this in for too long. It was her, he said, and he pointed, straight at Celeste. The room broke. Maren shot up from her seat. Are you insane? She snapped. You don't even know what you're talking about. But Adrian didn't stop. She told him to do it, he continued, his voice gaining strength. She said if he didn't end the marriage before the 7th year, the trust would lock permanently, that he'd lose control, that everything would be tied to her. He nodded toward me, and she didn't want that. My throat tightened. Celeste laughed, but it was different now. Forced, sharp, desperate. This is ridiculous, she said. He's confused. He doesn't understand the legal structure. But Mr. Calder spoke again. Quiet, precise. No, he said. He understands it perfectly. The room went silent again, that heavy, crushing silence, the kind where truth sits in the center and no one can breathe around it. I slowly turned my head toward Damien. Is it true? I asked. He didn't answer, not right away. His jaw tightened, his eyes dropped to the table, his hands clenched. Then, barely above a whisper, yes. It hit harder than anything else. Not the papers, not the humiliation. That quiet, broken yes. I closed my eyes for a second, just 1 second. 6 years. 6 years of memories, trust, late nights, small moments, shared dreams, all folding in on themselves. And underneath all of it, a plan, a manipulation, a countdown. I opened my eyes again, calm, steady, controlled. Say it properly, I said. Damien looked up at me, pain written all over his face. My mother, he swallowed, told me to file for divorce before the 7th year so the trust would release fully under my control. She said if we stayed married past that, it would legally bind half of it to you. There it was, clear, ugly, real. Maren tried to interrupt again. That's not how it… Stop, I said. Just one word, but it cut through everything. She went quiet. Everyone… Power shift, complete. I stood up slowly. Every movement felt heavier than the last, but I didn't rush, didn't break, didn't crack. I picked up the papers again, holding them lightly between my fingers. These, I said softly, were never about ending the marriage. No one argued. No one could. They were about control. I looked at Celeste, really looked at her. All that polished confidence, gone, replaced with something tighter, colder, exposed. You didn't want me in the picture, I continued. Not because I was a bad wife, not because I failed him, but because I was inconvenient. She didn't deny it. That told me everything. You thought, I added quietly, if you humiliated me enough, cornered me enough, I'd sign without thinking. Celeste finally spoke, her voice low now. You don't understand the kind of wealth we're talking about. I almost smiled, not out of happiness, out of clarity. No, I said. You don't understand the kind of person I am. The room felt different now, shifted. They weren't watching me fall anymore. They were waiting, watching, unsure. I placed the papers back on the table, flat, untouched. I'm not signing anything tonight. Maren scoffed, but it sounded weaker now. You can't just… I can, I said calmly. And she stopped. Mr. Calder nodded slightly, like he had been waiting for that. Celeste's eyes narrowed. You think this changes anything? The pressure doesn't disappear. The deadline doesn't disappear. I know, I said. And I did. 7 years. We had 4 months left. 4 months before everything shifted permanently. I turned to Damien. For 6 years, I said quietly, I trusted you. His eyes filled. He didn't look away this time. I didn't fight when you pulled away. I didn't question every late night. I didn't accuse you when things stopped making sense. My voice stayed steady, but my chest, it hurt. Because I believed, I continued, that whatever we were going through, we were still on the same side. A long pause, heavy, painful. And tonight, I added, you let them turn me into a spectacle. His face broke. I was trying to protect. Don't, I said softly. He stopped. I don't need protection, I continued. I needed honesty. Silence again, but different now. Not sharp, not cruel. Just heavy, real. I took a slow breath, then said the words that shifted everything one last time. We're not getting divorced. The room froze, completely. Maren blinked. What? Celeste stepped forward. You don't get to decide that alone. I looked at her, calm, unshaken. Yes, I said. I do. Then I turned back to Damien. But this marriage, I added, my voice quiet but firm, is not going to continue like this. He nodded slowly, like he already knew. From this moment on, I said, no more secrets, no more silence, no more manipulation by anyone. My eyes flicked briefly to Celeste, then back to him. If we stay married, I finished, it will be because we choose it, not because of money, pressure, or fear. The room didn't move, didn't breathe, waiting. Damien stepped forward slightly, just one step. His voice was low, careful. Do you still choose it? That question hung in the air, fragile, dangerous, everything balancing on it. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time that night, I didn't have an answer. Not yet. My throat tightened, my heart pounded. And before I could say a single word, Mr. Calder spoke again. One final sentence. Calm, cold, unavoidable. If you choose to stay married, he said, you should know. The trust comes with conditions neither of you have been told yet. The room went silent, again. But this time, it felt like the beginning of something much bigger and far more dangerous.